Hello, hello, hello. I hope you had a delicious lunch and you have food for your body. Now let's go back to feeding your brain, and I'm here to help you with that. Artificial intelligence. Are there any sessions at today's conferences at all that are not about artificial intelligence, partially or fully? And yeah, my session is not an exception in that sense. That's about special approach for AI, for artificial intelligence, that is very engineering approach. I'm Maxim Salnikov. I came to you from Oslo, Norway, where I live and work at Microsoft, where I help developers to succeed with our cloud, AI, and developer tool products. I'm developer myself, even though I'm not part of Microsoft engineering. I still build every single day something, my side projects, my hobby projects, demo projects, and looking at my contribution graph at GitHub, I'm happy to see that it's becoming darker and darker and darker green. So I believe you know what I mean. I'm a huge fan of developer communities. I'm doing my best to contribute my knowledge, my session, my skills to meetups, conferences around the world, both external ones and external too. And I co-organize a couple of communities myself. And yeah, still my favorite topics around technology, web development, web platform. Of course, now it's heavily kind of augmented by artificial intelligence. And for my photo, I've chose this one where I do hobby level DJing, but very special one. As a human, I mix music generated by AI. So this is kind of my specialization. And yeah, if you know folks service called Suno, you know that, yeah, that produces really interesting results, especially if you talk about dance music. But let's go back to the track. I believe that most of you in this room are developers or builders, or at least technical people. And you might experienced this story multiple times in your life, in your career, when there is some exciting technology and, for example, provider of, let's say, APIs of this technology, and your first API call went perfectly. You got results what you expected. And then if you try to somehow, let's say, operationalize that, you start building application around that, and generally that works. But of course, with getting more use cases, you start to hit some sharp edges. Might still look okay. And then, for example, going back to kind of enterprise use case, you show your prototype to your boss, and maybe you got kind of green line to go to production. Yeah, that blinks from time to time. I don't know if you could have a look at that. Yeah, I apologize for that. Still, this no AI could solve HDMI connection thingy these days. Yes, just imagine that your beautiful application is in production, if you talk specifically about consumption of AI services, and then your boss say, we got this monthly bill that looks a bit strange. Is this something that you expected? And I mean, cost question is one of dozens, if not hundreds of points that you could overlook during your initial excitements and even during your build stage. So this is big gap or chasm, or how we prefer to call that, from something that works on my machine or something that works for 10 users and the real world. Again, especially if you talk about some not hello world level applications. And when you hit real world, yeah, many technological and organizational and legal points immediately appear, like scalability, reliability, cost, of course. And yeah, today it's super challenging to earn user trust, but just one wrong system prompt without some boundaries set, and user trust is gone in just half a second. Just to list some of the challenges, and by the way, folks, this presentation could work for you as a checklist or multiple checklists, where to put special attention, what could go wrong, how to fix this or that, what to do, what not to do. I mean, this is not really deep technical dive, so maybe I have code just on a couple of slides, but I hope that you will find this useful. And of course, I will share this deck with those who request that immediately. And I believe organizers will send bill of materials to everyone, but I will explain how to get this particular material as soon as possible. And of course, yeah, there are lots of checklists on the slides. I'm not going to read aloud all of them, right? Maybe I'll focus on what resonates the most, but you just keep in mind that you will get these materials. So, challenges. Yeah, let's list some of them in several categories. Technology and performance. For example, if you talk about latency. So multiple factors could heavily affect how long your user is waiting for the response when we talk about, for example, AI inference. Maybe like the most straightforward example for today. Quality. Well, first of all, that's really in this completely almost completely non-deterministic world we all live in as builders of AI-infused applications. Yeah, it's really hard to ever reason about yes, no, 0, 1, right? Because you send the same prompt, same parameters, same everything. There is still a chance, not obligatory all the time, but chance that you will get different result, like totally different result or slightly different result. So, but still you want to put some measures just to understand if your application evolving towards right direction. Like let's say latest release, did it improve or vice versa? And also technology problem related to retrieval augmented generation is still, let's say, not completely solved, and most likely there will never be kind of 100% success ratio just because of like foundational things how large language models work. And what's super important, especially for companies from regulated industries, from financial sector, from public sector, from health sector, everything related to safety and security and privacy. Before you hit deploy button, you need to answer plenty of questions, and sometimes it's just question of applying some technology. Sometimes it's a question of changing your processes, how you think about your application. So lots of things that you need to worry about. And well, again, going back to your first prototype and application hosted in the real world, for example, in the cloud, or it really doesn't matter, or in the server on in your basement, still what that hits real users, both internal and external, doesn't matter in that context itself. How to make sure that you have full control, full clarity, full visibility on what happens next? Well, applying some engineering thinking, applying some discipline thinking, because experimentation without that approach, it's just a game. It could be a toy, it could be a side project, hobby project, but not something real. Real discipline is needed. And let's say time and efforts investments are also needed if you talk about applying some engineering approach, spending time, right, initially and on support. But as a result, what do we want, and how can we call this discipline to give it a name? Today, the mainstream term for what I present about is generative AI operations, or in short, GenAIOps. It's still, say, relatively fresh concept. Maybe, I don't know, it's with us for a couple of years. But at the same time, it already went through at least one renaming, because what we call now GenAIOps initially was kind of introduced under the name of LLMOps. Maybe you heard about that one. So GenAIOps is the, let's say, logical development of that, just because of the fact that turned out that generative AI is relevant not only in large language model context. Now we have rise of, for example, small language models, right? And who knows what other kinds of models and maybe other technologies from the same foundation level are coming. So to just generalize this a bit, we can call it GenAIOps, but you will hear that I personally feel that it might be renamed one more time because, yeah, let me put it as a kind of cliffhanger. Why? Because, and which name could come. But in a nutshell, if you heard about DevOps concept, I'm sure, like everyone in this room on that stage, it's very similar, right? And it's also connection of people, processes, platforms, maybe a slightly different terminology, but in a nutshell, it's the same. Why? To continuously deliver value. So it's both DevOps and GenAIOps and any other ops exist, not just because it's technological fun, not just because of technological excellence or whatever. No, the final goal is much higher abstraction, just to continuously deliver the value. And GenAIOps is a combination of people, because if, again, we talk about something a bit more serious than your first hello world application, where your first call to, for example, OpenAI APIs, multiple job titles could be, should be involved in this loop. For example, machine learning engineers, data scientists, developers, of course, DevOps engineers, project managers, right? And they all have this kind of footprint in the overall quality of the product, and you don't want to keep them disconnected. Processes, there are quite a few processes if you talk about A to end-to-end delivery of the application. Development, testing, deployment, monitoring. Well, it's not really different compared to, let's say, regular old gold software development. All this in place, plus a couple of extra processes on top of that. And of course, you don't want to maintain multiple platforms. You don't want to have this like sprawl of tools, sprawl of platforms. You want to keep everything, well, close to each other. At the same time, for sure, you don't want to be kind of vendor locked, right? So we'll also tell a few words about that. And exactly, GenAIOps is here to build this bridge over gap, prototype and real-world ready, production-ready, enterprise scale-ready application. And just to set the stage from the very beginning, you might hear about MLOps. And I already told about LLMOps, right? That is like kind of previous name for GenAIOps, but MLOps is something a bit on a side of GenAIOps. I mean, it's still there. It could have its own processes, people, tools involved, but don't mix up these two things, and they are not interoperable, I'd say. And if you, for example, in your organization, you have all processes around MLOps in place, today, if you talk about, say, real AI-infused applications, it's not enough. Just because MLOps covers, let's say, initial stages of overall picture. It focuses on data, on and the final outcome of MLOps as discipline is the model itself, right? And for sure, maybe it's mainly relevant for use cases for the companies where you build, train, maintain large language, or just, let's say, just models in-house, right? Or at least heavily fine-tune them. So this is where you need knowledge, skills, proficiency in data science, for example, and data engineering and in machine learning engineering. Why? While GenAIOps is the next stage in this pipeline, and basically we consume what MLOps gave us. So we take this model and build layers on top of that, like retrieval, augmented generation, orchestration, prompt engineering, and all things that lead to beautifully hosted, deployed, safe application of your company. And since I talk about you need to invest some time in learning, in gaining skills, in iterating after all, yeah, you want to get some promises, right? What GenAIOps promises you if you, let's say, cook it right, if you follow all these checklists, etc. First of all, reproducibility. And I already mentioned that it's all about non-deterministic use cases. When LLM can give you a predictable or less predictable result, still, to some extent, reproducibility is possible, and it's about, let's say, extending your thinking. That you, first of all, you know well that everything should be versioned, right? And we heavily focus on code in that context. But what about your prompts? What about parameters of these API calls you send to either external or your internal provider of this AI intelligence? That all sometimes, you know, we just forget about these parts, and that's definitely not part of discipline, not part of proper discipline. Automation. Too many times I've seen that folks say, okay, now I have this test data set. Now I need to go and run a couple of scripts, or even worse, upload it to some evaluation portal, click a couple of buttons just to check, okay, if this new prompt gives me the same or better or worse results. For sure, this way of doing things is nothing about ops, right? If you don't have this as just a natural part of your fully automated, fully scripted pipeline, yeah, we have some special effects. Let's consider it that way. It's still not a discipline. And of course, collaboration. I already mentioned that multiple people, multiple job titles are normally involved in this end-to-end delivery, and you don't want them to use, for example, different terminology when they talk about the same. It just, you know, doesn't definitely contribute to making everything as automated as possible. Now, the picture, the diagram, I don't know how to call it, I really like, and I feel that it shows the nature of GenAIOps from multiple perspectives. First of all, that's really close to how we think about DevOps, right? It also, I mean, it's not a line, it's not A to B, it's not end to end, it's circles. Just because we talk about something continuous, and once you deployed something, for sure you want to deploy next version, maybe in 2 minutes or in 2 years, doesn't matter. But the feedback loop should be in place. And once we drop something to this mill of different tasks, like business need, right? Your personal need, if you talk about some hobby application, all these circles should start spinning and basically never stop until you take decision about full retirement of this particular application service. That is, by the way, the process itself, right? But let's talk about something continuous. And here we talk not obligatory about completely new application like greenfield project. These, let's say, entry point as a business need can happen on multiple levels. Full application or just tiny part of the application, new feature, even bug fix could be an entry point here, right? And multiple interconnected circles, right? All starts with your exploration phase, ideation phase, when you just have very rough idea of, for example, your personal application or company needs new revenue stream. And I don't know how many startups based on AI technologies appear while we just all here while I speak. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds of them. So it all starts from this ideation and validation. If you got this loop hypothesis, maybe a couple of prompts, definitely you want to try multiple LLMs, multiple SLMs, whatever, to make sure that you choose the best at this particular time point. Building starts, right? This is where real engineering approach is needed. And to be honest, I mean, it's old goal software engineering with some specifics. Just you need to know how to deal with all these APIs, for example, of external providers of AI services. This is where you need to dive deep into prompting, and for sure, I mean, again, if you talk about enterprise use cases, this is not just your prompt, create me this or that. It's normally detailed, templated, automated mechanism. So I'm a big fan of prompt engineering as engineering, as discipline itself. I'm that big fan of prompt engineering, so I even created full-scale conferences called Prompt Engineering Conference, and last year in London in October we gathered over 200 people, and like the main topic was prompt engineering and only. Evaluation, well, it's a huge, and again, this is not old gold unit tests. It's not green or red. It's not yes or no. It's not 0 or 1. This is always a kind of range, and you decide where to put your, let's say, threshold when it's good enough to, for example, take this new version of application to production or revisit and rebuild again. And once something hits production, it doesn't stop for sure, because there is monitoring, observability. Why? Well, to avoid surprises, and what's more important, to have this feedback loop. If something goes wrong or not good enough, you go back to building. Sometimes you go back to reverting your project and back to ideation stage. For example, that could happen when there is next big technological breakthrough related to large language models, right? So we don't know when, I don't know, Opus 5 will be released and GPT-6 or something like that, and what kind of new features they could bring us. I believe that many companies will go and rethink their applications. In a positive way, of course. Yeah, I'm not going to stay for too long on that. It's the same 3 circles, but in a bit more flat way, right? For you, I mean, if you have engineering mindset, this, spinning circles is pure visual for you. You want to have this kind of decision tree, and that's exactly for you. What kind of questions and what is decision tree for you to move from idea to observability and back? That's super important. So if we quickly go through these 3 key phases, and yeah, by the way, I'm wrong, right? It's not 3. Maybe you noticed on this spinning circles slide, there was actually 4th one. That is not circle just because we have, this not round screen, but it wraps all these 3 circles. But stay tuned, we'll talk about this in after 3 next slides. Yeah, so where GenAIOps exactly contributes on ideation stage. So I found this definition, I even put it in my notes. So it helps to create, to support creative chaos within guardrails. Because if we think about how we literally brainstorm something, right, we do not think about limitations. We think about possibilities. And let's say good chaos is must-have for really breakthrough ideas, when you want to invent something totally new. But when we talk about LLMs, you still need guardrails. You don't want to, let's say, spend your whole token budget just on that stage. You don't want to, I don't know, get into some troubles with some country or industry legislation straight on that stage. So some guardrails are needed, and what's also super needed is documenting everything. Because just imagine, super silly scenario, but still, I've seen this in real life. When there was a prompt, perfect one, and it worked, and then there were some other iterations of this, and they were not that good, but no one kind of documented what was that initial one. Maybe that came to your mind at 2 a.m. And well, of course, it's possible to somehow recover that, but you need automation, right? So back to the question about versioning everything, even on this very initial role, when you don't even think that maybe you completely wipe everything from the stage 1. That also not that seldom. Stage 2, when we build stuff, this is where GenAIOps is blooming. So it goes through every single process you have in engineering, because you want to have standardized environments. You don't need it works on my machine. You want evaluation, because if you don't understand was this prompt better or not, you just cannot move with prompt engineering. And there are like dozens other things that are specific to LLMs. And again, evaluation here is not 1 or 0. It's a framework itself. And finding proper metrics is also task for itself, and also might require some iterations. Version control of everything. On this stage, this is absolutely must have. Next stage, when we talk about operationalizing things, right? So we built something. For sure, it might not be ideal, but at least it's ready to hit, let's say, its first users, real customers, real clients. And you keep in mind that you need to have this feedback loop, right? So if you see that, if you observe, keyword observe, right? During monitoring that something is not perfect enough in during running, you know like which stage to go back, and you have all context, all data gathered, right? So you also, I mean, it's not just, yeah, we need to change something, but we need to change something because of this metric fails. And basically, if you instrument this enough, if you, for example, also apply agentic thinking for your deployment, for your, let's say, runtime stage, agent can go and fix that for you if you, again, if you instrument it in the right way. This is maybe also a very interesting concept, not definitely part of my session, but SRE agents that do not just monitor, do not just gather insights from your running application, but also ready to immediately react on the failure or just some small defect. Go and fix the code itself, and then your task is just a review pull request, so that there is automation on that level as well. And as I promised, fourth loop, fourth cycle, fourth circle that wraps all these three: governance. And again, if you talk about real projects, this is not an afterthought. This is not final gate that you either keep closed or open when application ready to go to production. No, all these points should be infused initially, right? From your on every stage, starting from early ideation, because yeah, this is what directly affects, say, what happens next with your application might affect what happens next with your company, right? Because there are some cases when the things went that wrong that, yeah, it was a risk for whole business, not for this particular service. And again, this is not just a gate, it's also a loop that wraps everything included. Now, my personal feeling, folks, that GenAIOps, at least today, 99% of GenAIOps are actually agent ops. This is why I will not be surprised that we'll talk more about this term rather than GenAIOps, then that is more general, or I might be wrong. It's hard to predict these days. So today, the main, let's say, implementation of generative AI intelligence, capabilities, possibilities, features, awesomeness is coming in form of agents, right? And this happened maybe last couple of years. Before that, let's say, niche categories of software engineers tried, built agents, but now I believe majority of you folks in the room created something like that. Code first, or no code, or something. And yeah, I mean, that's there is good reason for that, right? Because agents is exactly this good balance of capabilities from LLM, capabilities from this generative AI era, plus old gold software engineering that actually builds harness on around this intelligence and allows to call this or that tool or chat with another agent. So that's really a good combo. And yeah, today we can safely say that most likely we are talking about agent ops specifically in all contexts of generative AI operations. And well, what I see from conversations with dozens of enterprise customers of Microsoft I work with, it's no longer one agent application. Again, if you talk about some real world scenarios, what started as one agent, let's say chatbot on steroids, chatbot that can also, I don't know, call a couple of API endpoints or do something locally on your machine, quickly evolved into multi-agent systems. Also for good reason, and I have a separate talk about specifically multi-agent orchestrations, why, how, when, tools, everything. But for now, let's just let's confirm that real AI-infused applications is not one big agent with 2 megabytes prompt with 100 tools included. It's just not manageable, right? You better split into expert agents on this or that task. But of course, it doesn't remove complexity, right? It just moves complexity to other layer. It spreads complexity over orchestration of these agents. And this is what you folks definitely don't want to do manually, right? And just imagine that you have all this, a checklist for GenAIOps for one agent, but it's all immediately applicable to a bunch of AI agents, different types, or just a different number of instances. What you want to do, you want to find good solution for outsourcing, at least orchestration, and there are plenty of frameworks available in the market. One of them, just one of them, is Microsoft Agent Framework. For obvious reasons, I'm more familiar with this particular framework than with others. But even though it has Microsoft directly in its name, I was not part of decision-making about naming this framework. It's open source. It's vendor agnostic, it's cloud agnostic, so it's just classic open source project that you can apply for whatever circumstance, whatever target of your application you could ever have. And it guides you, it handholds you on all these key stages, from building, orchestrating of the agents as a very big and efforts-consuming part of building, then hosting and deployment, and monitoring and observing. Again, you can put it on Azure, you can put it on Google Cloud, you can put it on in server on your basement, doesn't matter in that sense. It's open source and it's flexible enough. 4 key features of its framework, not technological, let's say conceptual. It's open, right? I already mentioned that it embraces all open standards, for example, agent-to-agent communication. It's cutting edge. And basically, Microsoft Agent Framework, this is not something that appeared from nothing. No, it's merge of 2 other open source agent orchestration frameworks from Microsoft called Semantic Kernel and AutoGen. So if you heard about these 2, you can think about, yes, Microsoft Agent Framework is their child. And it adopts the best parts from these 2, like production ready and enterprise ready from Semantic Kernel, and research like forward looking direction from AutoGen. That was a framework mainly kind of to validate the, let's say, cutting edge of the cutting edge. So it's all possible in Microsoft Agent Framework. It's extensible by design, and yeah, I have next slide to just illustrate that. And it's ready for production after all. Even though for some time it was in kind of preview stage, if I remember correctly, several weeks ago, we made it generally available. And for Microsoft, making something generally available is a big claim that really means that it's battle tested on real, scaled, complex use cases. And yeah, just one slide to overload you a bit with different logotypes from different providers of the models, memory services. So it's extensible and plug-in ready to as much extent as possible. But please note that currently it's this SDK, this framework itself, is only available for .NET and Python. Definitely that limits somehow, right, scope for this application. But personally, for me, I'm JavaScript guy, right? I'm a web platform guy. For me, it was a motivation to learn more about Python from practical perspective, not just syntax, but how that works in practice. And if we talk about, and so this session is not about Microsoft Agent Framework, right? You came here not to listen about Microsoft Agent Framework, but it's a tool that contributes some convenience, some technology points to generative AI operations. Yeah, I'm not going to read through everything, but I believe every component that you could imagine that could look somehow fragile if we let's say, forget about some important pieces here, or sometimes, I personally, maybe I don't have enough technological skills to implement durability in a right way. And by the way, folks, one very important thing about AI agents in general, they are not obligatory real-time request response. That also what quite differentiates good, proper AI agent from, I don't know, chatbot or just API call to OpenAI. They can have like pauses, breaks. For example, maybe the most straightforward scenario is to wait for our answer. This is a concept called human in the loop. And if agent framework you work with is not supporting that scenario, well, that's definitely not complete. Today's AI agents can stop for gathering decision either from us or from another agent. And this stop is not about a couple of seconds, not about a couple of minutes, not even about a couple of days. Your agent you run should be durable enough and support all, this very long running processes. If, I don't know, I'm on parental leave and this particular task is not that urgent, and okay, I'll go back in 1 month and hit button yes or no, and then agent kind of wakes up and does the next task. So that level of durability we are talking about. I think it's the only slide with the code I have, just to illustrate abstraction level that Microsoft Agent Framework provides. Let's say comfortable abstraction level. It's not super high level where there is a method build me something, and it's not low level method where you need to implement HTTPS calls yourself, or you need to implement agent loop, because this is also a big deal, right? How to make sure that you implemented something that spins across multiple stages and, as I mentioned, is durable. So yeah, you create agents. There are methods, very flexible, right? And you can connect to any provider of LLM. Again, this is not somehow ties you to Microsoft or Azure or OpenAI or whatever. And if you talk about multi-agent orchestration, there are several convenience methods like something builder, like orchestration name builder. So concurrent builder, and we then make sure that researcher and the marketer agent, they work simultaneously. So you don't need to implement anything on top of that. To speed up your multi-agent orchestration project, we created dozens of different templates, and it's just one of them. This is what we call solution accelerator. That is actually nothing but GitHub repository with some code, both application code and infra code that contains all best practices, right? Because Microsoft Agent Framework, it's growing, it's already large, and sometimes you just don't know where to start, and you don't want to have this hello world as your application level, right? Start right. Go through this solution illustrator, or there are plenty of other ones. If you use Azure, you can spin up all these application in just one command, azd init. But it's up to you. Yeah, again, if you are on Azure, it will not only create the application for you, it will also create spin up services that you need to run this application on. And yeah, I admit, I'm a big fan of Microsoft Agent Framework. I'm that big fan that I created a GitHub repository called Awesome Microsoft Agent Framework. If you are familiar with awesome concept of GitHub repositories, this is not application, this is collection of the links, curated collection of the links. And there is Awesome, your favorite framework. Awesome, your favorite programming language. Awesome, your favorite high-level concept. There are, I think, thousands of these repositories. This is just one of them where I try to carefully gather all best links, blog posts, videos, everything to help you with adoption of development. Super briefly, a couple more checklists. Good idea to start with assessment, to have a realistic picture where your organization, where your team, where yourself, if you talk about individual developer, on this maturity of Gen AI operations journey. We have in Microsoft super quick kind of mini survey that will give you not just which stage you on, but also what's next, what is the next stage. Some best practices I gathered for you. Again, you can just print it out, put somewhere on the wall, and use it as a checklist. Also, I mean, this is just summary of multiple ideas I already dropped in, like first version everything, etc. Couple of pitfalls to avoid. You don't want to, for example, ignore token economics. Even though there is quite a good trend that cost of tokens in the new LLMs is going down. At the same time, good AI agents, they are just enormous eaters of these tokens, because if you talk about proper agentic experience, it's not just one prompt result. It's reasoning, it's reiterating, etc. So yeah, I mean, we talk about serious consumption of the prompts in many cases. Checklist built with the Microsoft Agent Framework. If I convinced you to try that, measure everything. Define metrics first, because measure everything, but of course then waste all metrics that do not contribute to having your application better. With all these tools and thinking, you can iterate really fast, because you don't want to wait for too long while your competitor is releasing their best application. And a couple of things you don't want to have any kind of compromises. What to do? Your next steps. Assess maturity. Explore the tools. Microsoft Foundry is also one of the target places where you can host the agents, but it's not obligatory. Build your first agent if you didn't do it yet, and plenty of resources available on that topic. It's my great pleasure to share everything I know on top of that slide deck if we connect on LinkedIn. That's my main call to action for everyone. I of course, with great pleasure, accept all incoming connection requests, or just follow me, you decide, and let's start chat. Let's have this meeting of us, not as like the last one, but as a start of our conversation. Thank you so much. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.